What is up, everybody? Welcome to LOD Prime Time, as we like to call it here nowadays. We're trying a new time slot. We're going to go with the 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central. See what kind of action we get. We are excited because today's show is all about giving your kids money or not giving your kids money. It all depends. I know that people have a lot of different opinions on the matter, and I'm ready to talk about it because I have some pretty definitive thoughts, and I know you do too. I'm joined by my partner in crime, my partner at nighttime, fighting crime at night. Here we go. All right, so it's good to be here, right?
No doubt. Yeah. Thanks for everybody who is going to be checking out the show. Let us know where you're watching from. Weigh in. We have a few people already weighing in on this topic. We thought it'd be a good, conversation piece. Here at Life of Dad, we like to get all ranges of perspective on fatherhood. So this topic, like I said, is like, should kids get an allowance and why? And if you don't think so, also, tell us that as well. And um, for you, John, let me ask you this: what is your stance on allowance with kids?
Well, I am all for it. We live in a society that is a capitalistic society. We reward people for doing positive things. And I know, judging from the comments that I've seen already, the clothing, food, shelter thing. So that is kind of like I'll say the hard ass approach, which is fine. I kind of look at that as those are sort of my responsibilities as to bring them into this world. They don't owe me food and shelter and clothing. And those are things that if you're a 5-year-old, you should sort of hopefully have. Your parents should be able to get those things done. But they only earn anything if it's a job that they complete. So I don't have any kind of, there's no charity of like, oh, here's $5 for this. And if they want, snacks and treats and stuff, they have to, my kids are a little bit young, but they save it. So I have a maximum at this point. My daughter is 7. She's the one who's old enough to get chores. If she does something, she gets $1. But it's like they're her things to do, and they don't get done in the meantime, so they pile up. So I can go deeper, and we get in a couple good comments here. I like it.
Yeah, Gregory's weighing in. He's like, my son has always been willing to help and has taken the initiative to make his own money where he can. Although he's never asked for money, I will help him with money from time to time and tell him how proud I am of him and the man that he's becoming. So that's great. And then, like you kind of mentioned too, a lot of people are saying like, no, Christine's weighing in saying no allowances, food, bed, clean water, clothes that I buy. When you're old enough to have a job, you can learn responsibility. Then, have a bank account and save your money. For me, just to be obviously we want to be honest and all that stuff. I have my kids have an allowance. My wife and I, this was one of the things when we were going through like our pre-marriage or pre-Cana thing. That was like, I wouldn't say a hot topic, but it was something because like when she was growing up, she was like, no, you pitch in, you get the same, some of the comments where it's like, you have a house, we're providing food, all this other stuff that is your thing. And once you have a job, for me, I was getting that sneaker money when I wanted those Bojacks, and so I'd be
Yeah.
mowing, I'd be washing cars, I'd be doing laundry, all of these things, and it would earn. And I love the way you said complete your task, and then you would get money. The same thing too. Like my daughters get a weekly allowance. It's nothing big, but they have like 3 or 4 chores each, daily chores. Some are like one's like if once the recycling bin fills up, you have to go to the recycling outside and dump it in there. And there's other
Mhm.
things that they have to do, not just daily, but like depending on how much we recycle for that day, right? So there could be days where they're doing it 3 times a day, could be doing it once, but there's other things, and it gives them a sense of like they'll save some of the money, put into their account, savings account, and then we'll do if they want to go and use some of that money, that's great as well. It teaches them to like how to budget for things. You're not going to just
Mhm.
buy something that's like a crap toy for like $1 it's going to break, right? You
Yeah.
really want something like maybe $20. Well, guess what? You have to earn it. So I think you and I are in the same boat. But again, I love the fact that everybody is weighing in on their ideas.
Yeah, we just had Christina and Bridget. They wrote in, or Bridget wrote the opposite of what Christina said before that, which was, yeah, my children are 10, 11. When they help me around my home, I'm a single mom of 4 kids, age 2 to 11. When they do, they earn money, laundry, dishwashing, walk the dog, or if they want to go out. And I think, yeah, Brenda said before that, I think if you give them chores, yes, allowance is good. Christina Salter before said, I called it getting ready for adulthood, which is kind of what I feel like. So I guess the way I look at it, and what's funny is you said it was like a thing with your with your wife. So My wife and I never had a single discussion about it. Like
Yeah.
I never even thought about it till it came up. Just one day, I had my daughter pick up all the dog poop in the backyard, and I gave her $1 like a year ago. And she was like, "Yeah, we should do that. That makes that makes her want to do it." And then my son, who's 2 years younger, has like tried to find things to do to get paid for, and exactly what Christina's saying. Like, so I look at it this way: like we decided to have kids, and so our sort of responsibility to them is food, water, clothes, shelter. Like that's part of the deal that they should expect. And part of the stuff is like for us, clean your bathroom, clean your bedroom, like that they don't get. We don't give them. They don't get general. I think when they get older, we'll have like a whole set thing like you kind of do of like all this stuff for chores. But my daughter is only 7, so at this point, like those things are understood that we want to do. The things that they understood to do is like your bathroom's clean, your clothes are put away. Like that's all that stuff goes under the we all do that. And then it's like above and beyond. Like if my daughter helps me give the dog a bath, puts everything away, gets the shampoo and all that, like it's stuff that basically if it's a pain for me and they'll take care of it, I'll give them $1.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think Sharon kind of agrees with you where there's like, there's no allowance but money for doing extra things. I think,
Yeah.
and that's the way too. I think the biggest thing is, whether you give your kid allowance or not, whether you kind of take my field, I train a thought where it's like, all right, you were giving them chores at the end of the week. They get, they can learn to use that money, save it, use it to buy something. Or you're like, no, when they get a job, then they'll learn responsibility. But then they also got to understand that, if they're under our roof and they're getting all this other stuff that they're just going to have to pitch in. So I think either way works. I think if people are saying no right now for allowance, most of the comments are like, well, once they get a job, they'll be able to learn how to budget their money and all of that. So I guess it just depends on what age the kids are that they'll like say, yeah, they get an allowance or no. They're once they
Yeah,
get
I think the thing is like I've already noticed this literally like 45 minutes ago. My daughter was looking for something in one of her drawers, and she has there was 4 singles sitting in there. And my son like ran over. He was like, "Whoa!" Like he can kind of count. He's like, "You got $4 million or something." And she said, "Well," and she knew. I mean, like she's 7. She goes, "These 2 are for picking up the dog poop. This is when I swept the garage with Daddy, and that's when I did the weeding out front." And he literally turned to me. He's like, "Can I do the weeding next?" And I think that's where there's a difference in like the nothing under my roof, thing, or the these are just part of living in the house thing. Like I think the incentivized part, you can teach respect and all that kind of stuff and work ethic even with not incentivizing and just saying this is what we do. This is the price of being in my house and living here. But I think you can foster a little bit of that entrepreneurial spirit early if they get that there's ideas by taking on more, you get rewarded more. And for me, that's huge, especially in our world where it's like everything's about motivation and efficiency and energy. If you can somehow get your kid into high school with that idea that when I do more, I earn more by in terms of happiness, success, money, whatever the thing is that they want, it teaches them that. And then also to save.
yeah,
And this is what Stan just said. It teaches them how to, Stan Davis says, it teaches them how to manage money and save up for what they want. That's exactly right. My daughter, we're getting her a new bike. There's a helmet she wants. She's going to get enough of the singles. And we would get her helmet, but we're telling her if she does enough of this stuff, we'll get her like the big one with the sparkly garbage on it. But like, if you put those things out there, even if you would get them anyway for them
yeah.
and make it part of them having to earn it, anything earned is better than anything given. And I think everybody would agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. Chris says absolutely not for doing the basic tasks they should be doing, but for doing extra. I'm seeing where I think you and I are seeing a lot of like extra, like going above and
Yeah.
beyond.
Yeah, I'm not giving you $1 for brushing your teeth or for putting your clothes away or putting them in the dirty clothes after you get undressed. Like that's what you do. Like we give you, I give you your roof over your head. It's the extra stuff. It's the stuff that 3 or 4 years ago when they were 2 and 3 or 4 years old that I had to do that now another human being can do. And that's helpful. So again, we're talking $1. I'm sure I saw somebody said they give a quarter. Awesome. Just something to get them to be excited about it.
Yeah, here's another thing too. Like again, we love this like, open conversation. We love the different viewpoints that are coming in, and it's almost like you do not want to keep up the Joneses with this topic in the
No.
sense of like how much money you're paying. It's almost like when people always, I love when people are always like, how much is a going rate for the tooth fairy or whatever the case may be, and to me, it's like you just open up a ball of like just of confusion because everyone's like, wait, you pay this or that? Just go with, I think, what your gut is. If you don't really have no idea and you can throw that question out there, sure. But if you like you and your, spouse kind of have like an idea of like how much you're going to pay for this chore, is it a dollar, 25 cents, whatever, you guys make that decision, because I think that is another way that you and your spouse can kind of agree on, all right, if we're going to give them allowance, this is the amount because we agree on this amount. And, maybe I didn't grow up with allowance, but you did. And how
Yeah.
much do you get and why? And I think there's, the concept of like, I think the biggest thing for us is, for me and my wife is like teaching them responsibility about their finances.
Yeah.
And there are certain things where, when my daughter, and now like my oldest who's 10, she saved enough money. She wanted to get something that was like Harry Potter, like a Funko Pop. And I didn't ask her in the past. I'd be like, all right, give me the money and I'll get it for you. Right now it's like, you have the money, you go to the cashier.
Yeah, handing the money yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like I'm like, see you later. I'm gonna
No, but you're overseeing the transaction. That's really cool.
yeah, but like I think in the past few instances where she's bought something, I'm like, all right, you have your purse. Now you go and you learn that. And then, I think she was like $1 short for what, because the tax or whatever. And I'm like, all right, here you go. So I gave her $1 just because I was proud of her for making that own transaction. So that's another way that you can kind of teach them, all right,
Yeah.
you got your money, you're using it. I'm not going to, spend it for you. Make sure you give the cashier the right amount, because I mean, when they grow up, who knows? Everything's going to be probably online shopping
Yeah, they'll
anyways,
just be
but
like,
still, like, still get the
Dad, just Venmo me, okay? I'm tired of this actual exchange. Can you just put it on my Cash App? I'm done with this. I like what some people are saying here. I'll go through a couple of them. Dane said, I never got an allowance, but if I wanted something, I'd come to an agreement. Like if you wanted me too, I wanted a Game Boy too when I was a kid. I would come to an agreement with my dad, and I would have to work for it. When I did those things for a car, mowing the lawn, etc., he'd help out. That's a good way to do it. James Spalding must be an actuary or an accountant. He says allowance is base pay, 50 cents per year of age paid biweekly. So James, that's great. I like having a fair formula for all the age of the kid. So it says, why does he get $4 more? And you say it's because you're 2 years older or whatever it is. Scooby says yes.
He's got like pie charts and like formulas, and it's like, do they have to get an allowance and like, well, do stuff to get an allowance?
Yeah, James, do you adjust for inflation, or is that just a base thing from 5 years ago? I'd love to know how that works. Scooby says they should teach them responsibility with money. The chore board, it's funny. I don't have a chore board. I have a few neighbors who do, and it just becomes almost like a headache for the parents to keep up. So I would ask you, Scooby, is that more of a headache for you because they're checking things off or they're rushing through things to get it done, or how does that work out for you? Let us know. Let us know on that. And I think one of the things I saw somebody write about in terms of coming to an agreement with a kid if they want something. But I think it's so hard now because even getting something, the kids can just order it on Amazon. Like, I want this, and it's like, oh, there's the transaction. It's almost like Vegas, where you're playing with chips. There's no actual money. So I like what you were saying is you're buying something that's $9. Here's 10 that you've earned. Take that money in your hand, bring it to the cashier, pay for it like a human being, get change and figure it out and get the product in your hand. There definitely is something lost when a kid wants that, and if your daughter was like, oh, on Amazon or whatever, and it's like one, click right here, click for the one buy button here, and they just click it, and it's like, oh, well, there's no gratification there. It comes in the mail,
and they give me the money. And it's like, all right, here you go, and it's like,
yeah,
all right, mine.
I mean, it is where we are, and maybe that's part of learning. In the future, that's how we do it. But I think it's a scenario where you could easily lose that tactile feel of earning the money. Like you want to see a stack, like in what is it, Breaking Bad, like fat stacks. Like at some point you want your kid to feel like they have a lot of money, even if it's just a lot of money for them.
Yeah, and I think no matter which way you teach your kids about finances or allowance or no allowance or whatever the case may be. I want to bring up something that Dottie said. Like, I never got an allowance. There was no money from my parents to hand out to us. It taught us that if we wanted something, we worked for it. Had my first full-time job at 12 years old.
Yeah.
And I think that is another thing too, because I know that kids, I think you have to work 15, maybe you can start getting a job for some areas. I remember you can be a caddy at 14 when I was growing up, the different country clubs and all that other stuff. or you could be, not that they do it anymore, but like, you could have a newspaper route back in the day, like when our parents were growing up. But there
Mhm.
were certain jobs that you can kind of get, maybe lifeguards or whatever the case may be, when you're, 14, 15, 16, whatever, before you get into the quote unquote real world. But I think where I'm going with this is that you have option A, B, C, and D, but it's all going to go to eventually, the destination of Z, where it's like everybody's going to end up going to where, like, they're, in your household, whatever you decide, allowance, no allowance, or they have to do something extra, they're all going to learn responsibility and fiscal responsibility. And that is what, like, I think all parents want. Just because, like, you do something different than I do, John, it's like, no, my way is the best way. No,
Oh yeah.
what I'm seeing right here is
Well,
like,
I'm saying my way is the best way. I'll be clear.
of course you are. Of course. I'm just saying, like, I think, like, looking at everybody's, like, take on it, everyone's getting to the same point where it's like teaching responsibility whichever way they go.
Yeah, I think one of the things is like, so there's sort of maybe like we've done with a couple other topics, like a line of demarcation, like, over 14, like you have a job. Like I had a job, you had a job. Like I was mowing, I was doing mowing lawns. I worked at TCBY. Like I worked construction. I worked, landscaping. Like I remember our landscaper would pick me up in the morning in the summer and like I'd drive around and work with those guys when I was 15 years old, a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
So I think when you hit that age, the answer went to the question of, your kid wants something is probably beyond like, oh, you washed the dog and picked up the dog poop, here's $1. That's when I think you do that. I think it's kind of a 8 to 12 age range where they're not going to go out and get a job. They're not, even if they're the next, Gary V or hustling type kid, like they're probably not going to be understanding how to make that money. I remember specifically in third grade. So whatever age I was, probably 8 or 9, getting asking my mom because kids had lemonade stands, and I came up with the idea of like, I never liked lemonade. I liked donuts. So I used to buy those Entenmann's donuts and knock door to door to try to sell donuts. Like I remember my mom was like, you can do this after school if you want. So she would buy the donuts, like the Entenmann's that had, and the chocolate frosted or whatever. And I would knock on the door and I'd sell donuts for, I don't remember, 50 cents or whatever. And I'd sell the whole box. Who's not going to buy a donut for 50 cents from a 9-year-old? And, I don't remember what I did with the money. I probably bought a baseball card or something. But that's about the extent of what you can do at 8 or 9 years old to get beyond whatever you want to earn. And I was not some crazy, like, trying to earn kid. I think I did that maybe 6 times. But it was a thing I did, like, once a week, and it was cool. But I think after, 12, 13, 14 is when the answer is a job, or at least, like, something around the neighborhood. Like I remember, I don't know if you did this, but like when I guess it was 12 or 13, like we raked leaves. Like me and 3 of my buddies went around and for, I don't remember, $10 a lawn or something, or $5 each, maybe it was $15 a lawn. We raked leaves. That was, that's not a full-time job, and it just comes up for one time of the year. Once I got to be in high school, I didn't have any more, chore allowance money or anything. The only thing I paid for from age 8 to 12 was mowing the lawn and shoveling the driveway when there was snow. Everything else was under the contract of living under my parents' house.
Yeah, no, you bring up a good point, because the same thing happened to me. I think the allowance went away once I started having a job, and then I was able to like balance high school, a job, and then also helping around the house too. Because after a while, it's like, all right, now that you can actually go out and get a job, great. We don't have to pay you anymore because we're already giving you stuff anyways. So.
Yeah, well, Tassie says something here that's really interesting. I've seen some neighbors with some kids who are a little bit older do this, some friends, where an extra hour of TV time, or in my neighbor's case, it's actually video games. The kids into Fortnite and all the stuff that kids are into. But I was talking to him at the bus stop the other day, and he was like, dude, he'd play all night if we let him. So what I do is, he doesn't want a lot of other stuff, but his time for video games is 0. And if he does X, Y, and Z, it's each thing is a half hour. I can't remember the number he has. And he literally has it in his room, and we don't let him play till he has an hour. It's not like he can do 15 minutes and play 15 minutes. So he does these 4 things, and earn it I guess to a kid who's 10, that's essentially money.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like that bartering idea there.
Yeah, and another thing too, I saw a couple of comments below that I highlighted while you were talking, is that some people don't get allowance money, but they get money for good grades. I know.
Yeah, we did that. My grandfather sent us money for good grades, not my parents.
But I know parents that don't really give an allowance, but if you get like straight A's, you get a pretty good signing bonus. It's almost like
So my grandfather used to send us, I believe it was $2 for an A and $1 for a B, and we do not reward C's and mediocrity in the Finkel household. So they were, but that was it. And we would call every single time a
No
report card came out.
participation dollars for
No
C's.
participation dollars for the Finkel family. It was, and it was something that in the back of my mind, the older I got, you actually wanted that money because I take like 8 classes and that's $16. That was like a Def Leppard CD or something. It was like worth getting that little extra money from my grandfather. So, but my parents didn't do that. They had, the grades were expected as I got older, especially as you got into high school.
Joe Wilson just dropping some parent knowledge right here. You got one, they get one. One less case of beer, I guess.
This is another. Jerry Stanley says, my son does 50 cents for every chore that he does. Like, so that's the way to do it too. I think we're, like you said, we're all kind of on the same side. There seems like there's a few people who have basically said, clothes on your back, roof over your head. That's it. Jill said that. And that's a total choice to make. The middle ground seems to be like, a lot of these things are totally expected, but if you go a little bit above and beyond, you get rewarded. Then it seems like the third level is you just get a set amount of allowance over the course of 2 weeks for doing your stuff. And then we have the ballers who are like 50 cents a year on the year. I figured out what your signing bonus is every time they go through it. I think that's how it works. And then straight A's equals, so here's James. He came out, he had the 50 cent there. So straight A's on a report card equals to $50. I would be busting my butt to get straight A's.
Speaking about busting your butt right here, money for good grades, shoot. That didn't happen for me. Grades got grounded, butt tore up, etc.
Yeah, that's the thing too. I mean, like the flip side of the allowance, and it's the same kind of issue, is like the grounding, right? Like, so if you're going to give a kid, if I'm going to give my daughter, I'll use mine example, $1 to clean the dog poop up, and she's 7, so you can't do too much.
Yeah.
But as the kids get older, the flip side is you have your base set of chores, and if you do them, you get, $5 a month or whatever. If you don't, are you grounded or you just not get the money? How do you handle that?
Nice. Well, here's another thing too with Ashley saying, I do pay my kids for grades. How we don't do the ABC things. They do points. 1, 2, and 3. The higher the point, the better the mark. So my kids get 50 cents per point. So again, like,
Nice.
This is another thing right here.
It's like Moneyball. It's like academic Moneyball. I love it.
Yeah, it's academic Moneyball, but
Michelle.
also too.
Thank you, Ashley.
You can I'm not saying Ashley would do it, but like you could have your kids figure out, all right, what how much money did you get?
Yeah.
And see what they can and see what their answer is, right? And depending if they're right or not, like, hey, you give them the money, like, by the way, if you actually did this math better, you would have gotten $3 more.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think we need to have contracts. I think we need to put all these things in. I think we need our kids to have, almost like a representation, agent, like a Jerry Maguire out there, like negotiating on their behalf. And it'd be really a funny exercise to have your kids sit down and like say, like, what do you think you deserve?
Yeah. One of the guys here at Life and Dad weighs in. Too many labor laws these days, so my kids taught us all the importance about volunteer work.
Yes, volunteering. That's like, hey, let's go help the neighbor down the street do something or whatever. I think the key is what are the things that you as a parent want to make sure they understand matter, and how do you reward them for it? So even if your stance is like roof over their head, shirt on their backs, food in their mouths, that's my job. But if you need your driveway swept and your leaves raked, and instead of hiring somebody, you tell your kids they'll do it for $10, you're teaching them that part of it, and they're understanding work ethic and they're understanding war, because the truth is that's the world we live in. If you do a better job, you get paid more, and money has value. And that's a simple way to kind of do that stuff.
Yeah. Kind of speaking about mowing the lawn, Blake says, I know I'm late to the conversation, but when I was a kid, I was allowed to mow the lawn, and I was allowed to do chores. I was allowed to do what I could do, earn some money.
Yeah.
Ashley says, same. Here's another thing too, where I'm just kind of thinking of different, the different responses here. I think no matter what you're doing, whether it's, grades, chores, whatever, it just comes down to like I said earlier, where like what works for your family and how you're going to teach them. I think, a lot of people are saying like you were talking about raking, some people are doing the shoveling and all that stuff. I think you want them to learn about money. And also you said one of the things you mentioned too about helping a neighbor down the street. One of the proud parent moments that me and my wife have experienced is when we have when there's like food drives for our church or donations or donations for kids for the holidays, or kids, like St. Jude and all that, my daughters will come to us like, hey, we want to give some money to charity because we know you guys do too. And like, all right, sweet. Like they're learning not just fiscal
Yeah.
responsibility, but like paying it forward. And like I really appreciate the fact that they're like, all right, we got enough toys right now, we got enough books. I want to help out others. So I that's
Yeah.
another proud parent
Well,
moment.
how about like our good friend Shaquille O'Neal, who you interviewed a while back, who we were doing for those listening, we have a Life of Dad book coming out next Father's Day that we're really excited about, where we break down the lessons learned from all over 125 of the awesome guys we interviewed. But exactly to your point, Shaq around the holidays makes his daughters go down to either the Salvation Army or to a donation center, and all the toys that they no longer play with, he makes them give them away before they can get any new toys. And they have, it's not like he drops them off in the bag. They all drive down together. They donate it to a children's center or something like that. And he sees the kids getting it. The kids, his kids see the kids who are grateful the presents getting the presents, and then they get new stuff. So I think that's a great way to teach kids, the value of things and material goods.
Yeah, Dan raised another good question. For those who give an allowance, do you also monitor how it's spent? In our household, yes, we do. Like I said, I don't know if you were here earlier, Dan, but like when my kids get an allowance, some of it will go to savings, and then also too, like if we go out to a store, they either in the past they used to give me money, but now that they're getting older, they'll pay for it, and I'll see what they're getting. I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of curious to everybody who's hanging out with us right now. Do you guys kind of see what they're spending on? Because I think at this age too, like most of the age range from allowances is maybe like 6 to 12 or 13, but once you start getting real jobs in the real world, they'll stop. So I'm just wondering, like, are you guys that do give allowance, are you guys paying attention to what they're
I
buying?
like Blake says the only roadblock in the situation is that his kid makes money from streaming. So this is going to be an issue, I think, not probably for my kids, but maybe the next version, or even my daughter when she's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Like I've heard of and read articles of 13, 14, 15-year olds going on Etsy, coming up with their own little designs, selling little art things, creating videos that YouTube they make income off of. So you might be telling them $5 to sweep the garage, and they're telling you to stick it because they're making 70 on their little Etsy shop, T-shirts that they're making with kids' designs on them. So we are entering a world where, obviously they need an adult's permission to sign up with a bank account or PayPal or whatever they're doing for that. But we're getting in a scenario where almost all barriers are gone to earning money. And if your kid has a cool talent, or they're a good painter, or they can give guitar lessons to other kids, I've heard, online, that's a big one, is high school kids via Skype or via something like this, giving guitar lessons to kids in middle school for way cheaper, so we don't have maybe the means to drive somewhere else, or they're staying in aftercare programs. Like all these things are ways to make, you can just set up a PayPal or a Venmo and make $5-10 a clip. And so, the chores may need to compete. We really might have to figure out how it's going to work.
Yeah, Ash says kind of more so my son would spend it all on Lego or Halo figurines. Nice. Blake goes, what sets my son apart is that he's a high functioning autism, so he narrates the whole time he plays. So yeah, I mean, I think you raise a really good point, Sean, and everybody would appreciate you kind of just weighing in on how your kids kind of either gain money or and all that stuff. I wonder when that thing is going to happen, where it's like, all right, you set up an account and they're going to be like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna teach someone how to draw with my YouTube channel and like get subscribers or whatever, or have people like do advertisements. But that's a great entrepreneurial spirit that your kids will learn about. I think you said now more than ever. One of our friends of the program, Jeff Bogle at Out with the Kids, I interviewed him a few times for the Life of Dead After Show, and his daughters have set an Etsy account, and they sell jewelry. And actually, the CBS affiliate in Philly came to interview them about young entrepreneurs, and like that they saw like not only the money come in, but they saw like the notoriety come in too.
Yeah, well, you have those kids, the new generation of like YouTube millionaires who are just literally getting paid in views, and then influencer network. Instagram has an entire ecosystem of people at all ages and in all niches, from fitness to art to music to whatever, who are making money as influencers on there. And so I know we're kind of veered to a different spot, but like part of the idea of incentivizing your kid when they're 8, 9, 10, and 11 is so that they understand the value of money, and that if they do X, they get Y. And maybe that gets their wheels spinning on, perhaps I'm really good at this. maybe I can get someone to pay me to do it who's my age or a little younger. I mean, it's essentially tutoring. Ashley's saying, yeah, my son just started a YouTube channel. There's so many services and goods that are out there that if you have a skill as a kid, if you're gifted in something and you want want to share that gift, you can do it. And instead of having to have your parents drive you to tutor somewhere, whether it's math or whatever it is, you can start doing it online. And you can start building up your own resume. It's a great side job for a lot of these kids. So I think we're entering a world of the side hustle thing. I think we're getting into like a pre-high school, like pre-college hustle where kids are coming into college probably with an income stream. And I know if I was there now, if I was in college now, I have no doubt I'd be making all kinds of money, all these different ways, whether it's selling T-shirts or mugs, all stuff. Because we used to do it in our fraternity and all this kind of stuff when I was there back then, and we had huge barriers to entry. You'd have to go get shirts, drive down, pick them up, find a place to sell them. Like you come up with a great idea after a football game or basketball game, but there was no way to actually make it done. Whereas now you can sell them right away, like kind of like Barstool and some of those places do. So I think all these things that you're teaching your kid at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 are going to come to fruition when they're older and teach them that work ethic and that kind of entrepreneurial spirit that'll help them regardless of what they decide to do.
Because as our main man Jay-Z said, you can't knock the hustle.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Loved all of the people weighing in on this conversation. Thanks for checking out us at the show at a different time. Like I said, we usually do around 1:00. Next week, I think we're going to be doing a few shows on at 1, and maybe again Monday night. We had fun Monday night, right? Maybe around.
Yeah, it was great. This is really good. I appreciate everybody checking in. And so, like, if they want to follow our times, what we're doing, we really urge you to make sure you follow Art on Twitter and Instagram at Art83. Our names are underneath here. Me at John_Finkel. We change some of the times of the shows. We've been trying to do later at night because we have stuff going on during the day. A lot of people do. So doing them at night allows everybody to kind of relax. If you're sitting there watching your favorite show or your baseball game or whatever, you can kind of scroll through. Tassie, we absolutely will be doing another night. So for sure, Monday this time, we'll have a whole other topic. I go in, I know Art does too. We go in the comments and check them out after the show, even sometimes tomorrow, the next day. Other topics you guys want to see, hit us up. Hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, whatever you want to. At Life of Dad Show is the show handle, and we will try to get to as many of these as we can. Look, we got a YouTube connection here. We got Blake getting followers for his kid, Little Lego Dude. So everybody check him out. And this is awesome. This has been a really fun topic. I appreciate everybody chiming in, and I'm glad everybody agrees with me. It seems like perfect.
Also, too, for anybody in Florida that is watching this who still has power, we're thinking of you guys. Anybody that's going to be affected by the hurricane, stay safe. It's number one priority. Hope everybody comes out all right with that. For John and myself, thanks again for checking out the show, and we'll see you guys later. Peace.